Most men don't communicate. They beg for attention. They make calls without purpose, text without strategy, and share their life stories just to feel close. They live as if their self-worth depends on whether people like them, and then they ask, why doesn't anyone respect me? It's not because the world is too cruel, it's because you're too predictable, too easy to manipulate, and so desperate for approval that you lose your edge. In this video, I'm going to expose 4 communication mistakes that are stripping you of power in business, in love, and in life. If you've ever felt ignored, used, or unheard, then you need to watch until the end, because this will change the way you speak permanently. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like if you're new here. It helps me keep bringing you more valuable content. Here's the truth. The faster you respond, the weaker you look. Not because you're not smart, but because you've let your instincts override your logic. The world doesn't need another man who lives on reflex, acts without thinking, and lets his emotions dictate his behavior. Every time you immediately respond to a text, pick up a call, or react on impulse to an invitation, you're telling the world you're cheap. Cheap enough to be bought by a light buzz in your pocket. You think quick replies make you look professional? No, they make you look dependent. A man of value isn't the guy who shows up the second someone calls. He doesn't nod out of reflex, he pauses, he evaluates. He chooses to respond, not to react. The man who controls his response controls the outcome. The one who always feels pressure to answer instantly has never really been in control of himself. You don't have to chase every ring. Not every message deserves an immediate reply. Not every call is worth your attention. And just because someone texts you first doesn't mean they deserve real estate in your head. But the problem is, you've been programmed to believe that fast replies equal being polite, enthusiastic, responsible. That's faulty logic, rooted in fear. Fear of being left out, fear of missing out, and worst of all, fear of not being accepted. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do you always have to be available? Why are you playing defense in your own life? You don't owe anyone a response unless you choose to give one. Silence is a strategy, not neglect. Pauses are power, not weakness. In battle, the one who rushes out of cover is the first to take an arrow. In conversation, the one who speaks without thinking is the first to lose respect. Here's an interesting paradox. The faster you respond, the less others appreciate your reply. They take it for granted. But if you leave space, if you make them wait, you force them to ask themselves, what's this guy busy with that he hasn't answered yet? And just like that, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the one begging for attention. You're the one making them wait, making them wonder, making them reassess your position in the conversation. A wise man doesn't let emotion drive his behavior. He lets reason lead. He decides when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to act. He doesn't answer just because the phone rang. He answers because he's chosen that now is the right time. He doesn't let others dictate his pace. He sets the pace. The funny thing is, most people think they're in control, but in reality, they're just puppets being pulled by outside forces. They check their phone every 3 minutes because they can't handle the silence. They answer emails at midnight just to avoid feeling left behind. They keep themselves in always-on mode just to feel like they're part of something. But that's not control. That's obsession. That's addiction. An addiction to responsiveness is one of the most dangerous because it robs you of freedom while convincing you that you're being proactive. A man who lives by Stoic philosophy doesn't rush into action. He watches emotions rise like waves, and instead of chasing them, he stands still and lets them pass. He doesn't let phone vibrations shake his mind. He doesn't let someone else's urgency become his own, because he knows the one thing he truly owns is his response. And if he gives that up, he's no longer the master of his life. Next time someone messages you, don't reply right away. Take a breath. Set the phone down. Ask yourself, is this conversation really necessary? Am I replying now because I chose to, or because I felt pressured? If you don't know the answer, don't respond at all. Don't let someone else's urgency become your obligation. And don't let your own reflexes destroy the value you've worked so hard to build. Most men talk without knowing what they're doing. They walk into conversations like they walk into a bar with no plan, just watching what others are doing, waiting for someone to engage them, and hoping something interesting happens. They text just because. They call out of boredom. They reply to emails because they feel like they should. But they have no purpose, no direction, and definitely no power. There's nothing more dangerous than entering a conversation without knowing what you want. Because when you don't have a goal, you become a tool for someone else's. You text a girl because you miss her, but she's chasing the thrill of being pursued. And just like that, you throw yourself into her game. You call a client for fun, but they're on a tight schedule. And now you're just an interruption. You meet with your boss with no clear agenda just because you want to show initiative. You'll get dismissed, not because you're not good enough, but because your message has no clarity. If this video made you think, hit like now. Comment below. How have you applied Stoicism in your life? Stoic success, unbreakable mindset, total control. People don't have time for vagueness. No one cares about how nice, friendly, or enthusiastic you are if it doesn't lead to results. And if you can't control your message, you'll drown in the noise of modern communication. Every conversation is a battle. Whether you're trying to get someone to buy, schedule a meeting, trust you, or simply listen, you're fighting for their attention, their trust, and their time. And if you walk into battle without a plan, you're the first to get shot. A man with a purpose doesn't talk too much. He doesn't try to impress. He doesn't chase agreement. He does one thing. He steers the conversation toward the outcome he chose beforehand. You think that's cold? Rigid? Unnatural? Then take a hard look at all those conversations that felt natural, fun, light, and went absolutely nowhere. The times you connected with someone, talked about everything, and lost contact a few days later. The meetings where everyone agreed, but no one followed through. The times you just needed to talk, but ended up oversharing for nothing in return. That's not communication. That's energy drain. That's you weakening your position. A man who lives by Stoic principles doesn't speak just to speak. Every word is a sharpened blade. Every question is a step toward the objective. He doesn't ask to be liked, he asks to learn. He doesn't tell stories to seem interesting, he tells them to deliver a specific message. Why do you want to talk to this person? What do you want them to do after the conversation? What do they need to know? What should they feel? What should they believe? If you can't answer those questions from the start, then don't say anything. Stay silent. Prepare. Come back when your objective is clear. Never enter a conversation just to see what happens. That's the mindset of a man with no direction. That's the behavior of someone always waiting to be chosen, guided, or picked. A man of value doesn't wait for a path. He draws the map, he clears the road, and he decides who walks it with him. Conversations are never neutral. You're either leading or being led. And the irony is, the more you try to be open, chill, flexible, the easier you are to trap in time-wasting talks in someone else's stress relief, ego stroke, or mental dump, while you walk away with nothing but the illusion that you connected. That illusion isn't enough. It doesn't build relationships. It doesn't build value. It doesn't take you anywhere. A strong man doesn't say more than necessary, but when he speaks, people know it means something. And because of that, they listen. They respond. They move. Want to be taken seriously? Start by taking your own purpose seriously before you open your mouth. No one respects someone who's easy to read, and no one fears the guy who lays all his cards on the table from the very first round. That's the truth, whether you like it or not. Too many men today make the same deadly mistake. They believe that being genuine is the fastest way to be liked, trusted, and connected. So they spill everything, old wounds, past failures, dreams, loneliness, to someone they've only just met, maybe for a few hours, a single conversation, or even just a couple of messages. The result? They don't get closeness. They get judged, not drawn in, but pushed away. This world doesn't work the way those cheap self-help books told you it does. Sharing doesn't create connection. Sharing too soon just exposes weakness. And in a competitive world, the person who reveals their soft spot first gets cut from the game. You have the right to your emotions, but you're not obligated to perform them for others, especially when those people haven't earned the right to see the vulnerable side of you. Revealing emotion is an art. It's like standing in a dark room full of armed people, where you don't know who's friend or foe, and while everyone's still watching each other cautiously, you're the one who drops your shield, lays down your sword, opens your chest and says, "I trust you all." That's not bravery, that's foolishness. Because in this world, most people don't care about your sincerity. They care about what they can do with the information you just handed them. And when you overshare too soon, you're handing over the controls to your emotional state. You're letting them know what hurts you, what scares you, what throws you off. And sooner or later, someone will use that against you. This isn't a call to be closed off, cold, or cynical. It's a wake-up call to understand that emotion is a weapon, and weapons aren't handed to strangers. You need to learn how to control the information that leaks from you. Every time you talk about yourself, you're training people on how to treat you. And every little detail you reveal, even by accident, is another piece of the map that leads straight to your weak spot. A man with backbone isn't someone with nothing to hide. He's someone who knows exactly what to hide, what to hold, and when to share. The problem with guys who overshare too early isn't that they're open. It's that they're too desperate to get their value validated. They can't stand silence. They can't stand being a mystery. They crave attention, comfort, and someone to say, "I get you." And in that desperate effort, they trade personal power for a few minutes of fake empathy. Only the lonely, the insecure, and the undisciplined are comfortable spilling their guts in front of strangers. A strong man protects his privacy, not because he's afraid, but because he understands that self-control is the root of all real power. A disciplined man doesn't say everything. He watches, he listens, he reads the room, he lets others speak first, and when necessary, he uses silence to see who has the strength to handle it. He doesn't explain who he is, because his calm presence and self-control already answer that for him. Don't get it wrong. Being vulnerable is human, but revealing it is a choice, and if you choose the wrong moment, you won't get understanding, you'll get labeled. You won't be embraced. You'll be seen as weak, and that label will stick to you for the rest of that relationship. Emotional freedom doesn't mean emotional exposure. You can feel everything deeply, but choose wisely what you show. Like a rare blade, your emotions should be kept in their sheath, only drawn when absolutely necessary. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to wound. The more private you are, the harder you are to break. And if you still believe honesty is good, then let me tell you this. This world doesn't reward honesty, it rewards intelligence. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.